his medical history. The miracle is that Minneapolis Police Sergeant David Mack, shot and wounded 2.5 years ago, is recovering. As Dave Nimmer reports, Mack may soon be moved to a rehabilitation center.
When Sergeant David Mack was rushed through these doors to the emergency room of the Hennepin County Medical Center in December of 1979, the prognosis from the very beginning was grim, and it stayed that way. His brain had been without oxygen for a critical period of time, and he was in what doctors would call a persistent vegetative state, kind of an everlasting coma.
And for months, he laid in this hospital, his breathing assisted by a respirator and nourished only intravenously. There was not the slightest sign that David Mack had any awareness of his own condition or of the world around him. Finally, he was transferred to a nursing home in northeast Minneapolis for what was to be a stay for the rest of his life.
But in the fall of last year, nurses at the home made a rather remarkable discovery. They noticed that David's eyes would follow them around the room as they went about doing their chores. And so Sergeant Mack was brought back here to the Hennepin County Medical Center for further evaluation. Lo and behold, doctors discovered that he was thinking, that he was aware, and they also learned that he could communicate through the use of a rather elaborate alphabet board, where he would nod when someone pointed to the correct letter.
But in the past several months here, David Mack's progress has been even more remarkable.
Well, I think he's aware of what's going on. He's been aware of all the problems in the last 2 years in the care of his case. He's aware of football games and aware of what his kids are doing. He's aware of the redistricting of the educational school system in Minneapolis and is concerned about that. So he's really aware of a lot of things. And of course, his wife, Marlise, and the nurses spend a lot more time with him than I do. But he's aware of what's going on and likes to have the newspapers read to him and follows TV somewhat and so forth. And so he's aware of a lot of what's going on and relates a lot of personal things.
And more encouraging is that Sergeant Mack seems to be regaining sociability, since he is no longer confined to a bed 24 hours a day.
He's in a sitting position. He has a special wheelchair, and he can be propped up, and he has head control. He can raise his head back. And so he's got fair head control, and he can be put up in a wheelchair. And he's put up for several hours a day in a wheelchair and moved around in the halls, and he likes to eat in our conference room on the ward and so forth. So he can do those things. He can do a lot of things that a normal human being can do, but right now he is unable to move his arms and legs very well, although he can move them. His head control isn't as good as it could be, and he's unable to swallow real well.
With some ability to swallow, however, David can now eat puddings, ice cream, and pureed foods, and his weight has increased from 98 to 147 pounds. Dr. Cranford points out that David only has slight movement in his arms and legs, and the ability to speak is still a long shot. But how much, how far, how fast? Those are questions for the months ahead.
The main thing now, I think, is for David to go to a rehabilitation center where they can make maximum use of the capabilities he has right now. Hopefully that he'll continue to regain function in his arms and legs and regain swallowing and maybe speaking. So what he needs right now is intensive rehabilitation, physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech therapy, etc. right now, and that's a prolonged course.
Sergeant David Mack is still a long way from what we would describe as normal functioning. But his progress so far, in this rather precise and scientific age in which we live, may just demonstrate to all of us that there are such things as miracles. With photographer Bill Kemplin, Dave Nimmer, WCCO Television News in Minneapolis.
Sergeant Mack's wife, of course, is delighted, to say the least, by her husband's recovery. And though she would not submit to an interview, she did say she wants to thank the dozens of people who have been so supportive throughout her long ordeal. And she is particularly thankful to the Control Data Corporation for offering her husband a special computer which may someday help him to communicate better.
Well, David, the parents of Anna Conrad are calling it a small miracle tonight. 22-year-old Anna was rescued yesterday after spending 5 days in a small building which had been buried in an avalanche. That same avalanche near Squaw Valley, California, killed 7 others. But Anna never gave up hope.
They were coming through and they yelled my name and I answered them, but either they didn't hear me or they couldn't get through because of the problems with the avalanche.
What was it like today when they found you?
Fantastic. They're all friends. Every single one of them I knew just about. So it was like seeing a bunch of people you love. It was great.
Well, the snows of spring are once again in our forecast, and Mike Fairborn will be...